The Price of Blood Money. This is a story of a young man who sacrificed his mother for money. A dark African village story from Cross River State. In a quiet village deep inside Cross River State, there lived a young man named Emeka. He was about 26 years old, handsome, energetic, and always moving around with different groups of friends. But everyone in the village knew one thing about him: he had no job. He was not a farmer. He was not a trader. He was not a craftsman. Every morning he woke up wearing expensive fake clothes, walking around the village streets, laughing loudly, chasing women, drinking with friends, and making promises about becoming rich someday. People called him Mr. Tomorrow. His mother, Mama Grace, was a poor widow who struggled every day just to feed him. She farmed cassava under the hot sun, while Emeka wasted his youth wandering from one place to another. One evening, Emeka sat with a group of boys behind a local drinking joint. They were discussing money, flashy cars, and wealthy men in the city. One of the boys leaned closer and whispered, "There is a grandmaster outside the village. He can make anyone rich overnight." Emeka's eyes widened. That night, greed entered his heart like poison. A few days later, Emeka secretly traveled to a hidden shrine deep inside the forest. The place was terrifying. Human skulls hung from trees. Red candles burned on the ground. Strange chants echoed in the darkness. At the center sat an old spiritual grandmaster covered in white chalk and animal blood. The old man looked directly into Emeka's eyes and said, "Riches demand sacrifice." Emeka nodded without fear. The grandmaster performed rituals and then gave him the terrible condition: "You must sacrifice the person who loves you most." Emeka froze. Only one face appeared in his mind: his mother. For a moment, guilt touched his heart, but greed quickly swallowed it. He agreed. A week later, Emeka returned home pretending to be happy. "Mama," he said softly, "please escort me somewhere tomorrow morning." Mama Grace smiled warmly. She trusted her son completely. The next day, they walked together toward the lonely forest road outside the village. Birds chirped peacefully. Mama Grace kept praying aloud for her son's future. Suddenly, Emeka stopped walking. Hands trembled. Tears gathered in his eyes. But before his conscience could stop him, darkness took over. With evil in his heart, he attacked his own mother and took her life for the ritual sacrifice. The forest became silent. Even the wind seemed to mourn. The sudden wealth had arrived. Not long after the sacrifice, everything changed. Emeka suddenly became rich. He returned to the village driving expensive cars. He sprayed money in clubs. He wore gold chains and designer clothes. He traveled from city to city, living like a celebrity. The same villagers who once mocked him now gathered around him in amazement. People began to whisper, "How did he become rich so fast?" Some said, "He met a white businessman." Others said, "It must be a miracle." A few people whispered the frightening truth: maybe he used his mother for ritual. But nobody could prove it. One midnight, Emeka was driving alone on a lonely road. Suddenly, he saw his mother sitting in the back seat of the car. Her clothes were stained with blood. Her eyes stared directly at him. "My son," she whispered painfully. Emeka screamed and crashed the car into a roadside gutter. From that day, peace disappeared from his life. Everywhere he went, he saw her spirit. At the club, inside his bedroom, at the roadside, in mirrors, in dreams. He stopped sleeping. He became paranoid. He drank heavily, but nothing could silence the spirit of the woman he betrayed. Desperate, Emeka returned to the grandmaster. The old man listened carefully and said, "The spirit is angry. Another sacrifice is needed." This time the demand was darker. He was told to bring a young virgin girl. A few days later, Emeka met a beautiful young woman named Anita. Around 21 years old, she was struggling to survive through hookups and small hustles in the city. Emeka pretended to be a wealthy client and invited her into his luxury car. As they drove, he removed a strange handkerchief from his pocket and covered her nose. Within seconds, Anita lost consciousness. He took her to the shrine, and once again, innocent blood was spilled. For a short while, the money increased again. More cars, more parties, more luxury. But the spirits returned stronger than before. His mother appeared beside him every night. The young girl's voice echoed in his ears. He began hearing whispers nobody else could hear. Madness slowly entered his mind. When Emeka ran back to the Grandmaster again, the old man gave him the most terrifying instruction yet. To keep the wealth alive, you must sacrifice the center of your own head. Emeka was horrified, but greed had already trapped him. The ritual was performed. Days later, a wound appeared at the center of his scalp. At first it was small, then it began to rot. The flesh decayed slowly. Maggots crawled from the wound. The smell became unbearable. Soon the decay spread across his face and body. The same people who once admired him now avoided him in fear and disgust. His expensive cars became useless. His friends disappeared. The clubs rejected him. Money could no longer save him. One cold night, Emeka died alone in pain, surrounded not by wealth but by darkness, and the village finally understood the terrible truth behind his riches. Hear this moral lesson: blood money never brings peace. Any wealth built on evil, betrayal, or human sacrifice will eventually destroy the person who seeks it. True success comes from hard work, patience, honesty, skill, and determination. No amount of money is worth a human life. This is the Wise Teachers channel. If you enjoyed this powerful story and learned something from it, don't forget to like, comment, and share this video. Subscribe to the channel for more deep African stories, life lessons, and emotional narratives. Your support helps us bring more interesting stories to life.